Folks, so final poem, Name Journeys by Raman Mundier. We know it's Raman because we know she's named after the god Rama, right? As we just talked about in the Hindu story. So a couple of things we've made earlier on. So journeys is the idea about sort of a grand or epic movement. Okay, and then the name, of course, is the idea about your identity. So we discussed where names come from, why we're called what we're called, to what extent our name captures the kind of person that we are. So this, in a way, is a poem about the way that as Raman Mundier moves, so we know from our context that they move from India to Manchester, so Manchester, England, when they're 5 years old. And the way that you're years old, the way that if you move somewhere else, that your name and your identity will also change as well. Is your identity strong enough to manage moving to another country where nobody understands your culture? Like Rama, so straight away we have got a simile. Okay, remember similes are comparisons using like or as. Like Rama, I have felt the wilderness. Okay. But I have not been blessed with a companion as sweet as she. Sita. Loyal, pure and true of heart. So, don't get confused here, right? This is a poem that is about loneliness. The wilderness is a reference to being alone. So Raman says, I know what it's like to be alone. I know the wilderness. I know what it's like to be isolated and lost. I have not been blessed, right? I've not been blessed with a companion as sweet as Sita. So Sita was the wife of Rama. And the idea is that Rama and Sita are this sort of like perfect couple, right? So they're very, very pure. So in a way, she's starting to question her name, right? You've called me Rama. Rama is the prince. He's a great warrior. He's a man. So again, I have the name of a man, which again is quite unusual as Raman is a female. But why have you called me that? Because I'm not like him, right? I'm not strong like him. I'm not brave like him. I don't have a connection to somebody else. So loyalty, purity and trueness, if these are all positive qualities, okay, if these are all positive qualities, they are also things that she lacks, right? I do not have this. Like her, so this is about Sita, I have been chastened through trial by fire. Now, Sita's story, as we just looked at, is that she is kidnapped by a monster. So she's kidnapped by a monster, and then she's saved by Rama. Because like Sita, I have endured difficulty, right? Trial by fire. I've been burned. Okay, notice here, this is a caesura. Okay, it makes us pause on fire. So it makes us pause there and really think of what she means by that. Okay, chastened means to be told off, right? To be disappointed, to be rebuked. So it's almost like being attacked. I have also been through difficulty. Sita and I, spiritual sari sisters. Now the sari is the Hindu dress. So we are linked by culture, right? Spiritual sari sisters. So we are linked by culture, entwined by an infinite silk that would swathe Draupadi's blush. Now Draupadi is an empress. Again, another character from Hindu stories. Thank you. Another character from Hindu stories. There's an idea that she finds within that culture a way of dealing with difficulty, right? Entwined means to be tied together. So that she's tied. Silk and swathe are both sort of soft images. So silk is a very soft material. To swathe means to cover somebody in something. Notice the S sounds. Okay, we call this sibilance. Okay, which sounds very soft. So when she's going through these difficulties, right, trial by fire, chastened and wilderness, she finds comfort in her culture, right? Being part of something bigger, being part of the Hindu culture, gives her a sense of belonging. Okay, now we talked before about being connected or disconnected. So what we've got here is all about connection. So I'm going to add up here, all of this that we've just talked about is about being connected to culture or faith. So being a Hindu means that you're part of something bigger and more important. Then it changes. My name, a journey between rough and smooth. Now what she means by that, of course, is her name. Her name is Raman. And that name encaptures good and bad. So the smooth, of course, is the love between Rama and Sita, and the rough is the trials and the violence that he has to go through to get her back. So my name is both good and bad, and I recognise that. An interlacing of banyan leaves, so banyan leaves are rough, with sugar cane. Sugar cane is sweet. Right? Woven tapestries of journeys. Okay, so tapestries is like art. Of journeys, travelling from south to north. Now south is a reference to India. So we often refer to India as being part of the global south or South Asia. To north, which is England, or specifically Manchester, right? Where the Punjabi in my mouth became dislodged as milk teeth fell and hit in fertile English soil. Okay. Now Punjabi is a language that people speak in India. So this is also identity, right? Language, how we speak, is part of our identity. When she goes to England, what happens to that language? It goes away, right? Milk teeth are your baby teeth. So it falls out. So the language falls out of her mouth. It hits the English soil. And does it grow? No, it doesn't. So infertile means no growth. So in England, it's very hard to be Punjabi. It's very hard to be Indian because there's no room for your culture to grow, right? There's an idea here that English soil is only for English people, and she then feels like a bit of an outsider in this situation. So this, of course, is a metaphor that the language falls out like teeth, hits the ground, and just lays there, doesn't grow, doesn't change or move. My mouth toiled. The word toil is a very old word. It means to work hard. So if you toil, you're really working hard, right? You're really sweating, you're really trying. My mouth toiled to accommodate the rough musicality of Mancunian vowels. So Mancunian is Manchester. And the vowels are, so A, E, I, O, U, as we know. So in Manchester, they're all quite rough, quite harsh, right? She's like, I can't speak like they do. There's something rough about them, right? Now, rough musicality is an oxymoron. Rough, of course, meaning quite unpleasant. Musical, meaning quite beautiful. So there's something quite beautiful about that voice, right? She doesn't have a problem with their voices, but she can't speak like they do. So again, there's a sense here To accommodate means to fit in, right? So she's trying to fit in. She wants to be like them. She wants to try and do it, but she can't because she can't speak like they speak. Potentially, she's got an accent. So we think a little bit about poems like Homing that talk about the way that people think about you if you don't speak like everyone else does. Okay, final part up here. And my name, so again, still talking about Raman, became a stumble that filled English mouths. So they can't pronounce her name. And again, some of you might know this experience, right? Where a lot of names, English names, if someone's called Chris or Paul or John, everyone knows how to say that name. If your name is not an English name, then people often go, well, how do I say it? Is it Raman? Is it Raymond? Is it Raman? Right? She says that these people can't say my name, right? It becomes a stumble. A stumble is what happens when you fall over, right? To struggle, to stumble. That filled English mouths with discordant rhyme. Now, discordant means that it sounds bad, right? Think about a chord. So a chord is when you play multiple notes together that sound good. If something is discordant, it means that they don't go together, right? It sounds bad. So they're mispronouncing her name. An exotic rhythm dulled. So it loses its original sound. My voice a mystery in the Anglo echo chamber, void of history and memory. So her voice becomes lost, right? Now the voice, of course, is her original identity. So in England, whereas when she was in India, she felt strong, people knew her, how to say her name, her culture was understood by everybody. In England, no one gets her, no one says her name right, she feels lost, she feels isolated. The Anglo echo, an echo chamber, so the echo chamber is where we hear the same voices. We often use this to refer to when people who talk have the same opinion as each other and they don't get any diversity. So there is no diversity here. A void is nothing. So a void is where there is nothing there, right? Like a complete vacuum, a nothingness of history and memory. So in England, she feels like nothing. She feels like no one knows her history. Her memory doesn't count. So the memory, of course, is about the past. Well, both of these are about the past. So the past doesn't matter. Now, as a comparison, I think when we talked about Port of Paradise, or even talked about Shall Earth No More Inspire Thee, both of those poems talk about people going through difficult times. What they both argue is that if you engage with nature in your faith, or if you engage with your heritage in your faith, that you can get through difficult times. Do you think this poem argues the same thing? No, it doesn't. What this poem argues is that sometimes you can't, right? That your faith identity is not enough. That in this world where you are an outsider, when no one knows your culture, when no one cares about who you are and your name, that you cannot change it, you just become something empty. So whereas the other two offer quite a positive view about how you endure difficulty, this one argues that you can't. Okay, so it's much, much more negative.